Hello and welcome back to Bump Love. We're coming at you at the Kampala Sheraton Hotel, back again with a Baby Daddy episode. And today we want to talk about schools reopening after a 2-year break. Nearly 2 years ago, schools were closed because of COVID, and just last week, schools reopened. Uganda had the longest school closure, and it is estimated that 15 million pupils were out of school for the last 2 years. So today we want to talk about what that means for the schools, what it means for the teachers, what it means for the students, but also forecast what does it mean 10-15 years from today because of this 2-year gap. And I'm back yet again with another panel of dads. Some of them are not new to the show. Solomon is new to the show, Solomon Serwanja. Next to him is Bob Buga. Bob is not new to the show. Bob is a father of 3. Oh, I forgot, you're a father of 4. Yeah. Amazing father of 4. Bob is a father of 3, and he's the head of IT at Kisu. And then, of course, Micheal Niyitegeka as well, who is not new. He is the program director refactory at Clark International University. He's also the ICDL Africa country manager for Uganda, father of 2. So we want to discuss this whole schools reopening after 2 years. I think it's such a big deal. Earlier on, we were talking with the ladies and saying, first of all, it's a relief for parents. But I want to hear what your initial thoughts are about the schools reopening after the 2-year gap.
It's a great relief.
Yeah.
I mean, you can feel it in every corner. That we just can't wait to get these guys into some location, controlled environment, and somebody is responsible for
their education.
It doesn't matter whether it is education or whatever is happening, but there's somebody who is taking care of them from a certain time to a certain time, and I'll pick them. They'll probably be tired, get home, they have the routine.
The routine starts,
is in. But I think on a deeper reflection for me is, and I said this when the first lockdown happened, is what I'd hoped was that we would have used this as an opportunity to evaluate a lot of things. And I think for me, listening to the different conversations that are happening, it seems we stopped, actually did a pause. We're now going back and we're just playing. Because I'm saying this because I'm in the space of education, and I can tell you what this whole thing has done for us as a program. It's been like a 360 turnaround of how we deliver content, of how we look at things that we used to think were very critical in terms of learning. And I'll be very honest with you, I think to an extent we could have missed an opportunity. At a general learning program delivery perspective, we could have missed an opportunity. And that's what we are hearing. They're going to go do some assessment and then continue. The question is, what did we learn? What did we learn in between? What are some of the things that we think were very essential that have ceased to be essential, that we need to pull out? Should learning take 8 hours, or it could actually happen in 5 hours? For me, these are questions that I kept asking.
Missed opportunity.
We could have missed an opportunity to reevaluate, repackage, and repurpose education. I remember I tweeted during this lockdown and I said, master degree take 3 years. Who defined 3 years?
Yes, where did it come from?
Where did it come from? And when I posted it, I think one person sent a reply and said, yeah, it's very important for you to spend that time. I said, no. It's not the length that defines. It is what is the purpose.
Yes.
And what is it for us? Of course, we need to be comparable. We need to be comparable. But a lot of random thoughts.
That's actually food for thought. I mean, Bob and Solomon, feel free to jump in anytime. But you're right. I think in the 2-year gap, maybe it's because we were doing a lot of firefighting COVID sort of caught everybody by surprise. But 2 years is a long time. You know, that there could have been an opportunity for us to reevaluate the education system. But you are right, it's possible that we missed the window. And now it's back to business as usual.
Let me ask you, Rachel, if I went to Ministry of Education and I said I want to register a virtual school, would I probably get a license now?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Which is crazy.
But I think the problem is that you can't quantify these 2 years in terms of loss. When you did the introduction, I was there thinking, wait a minute, has she been reading my dissertation? Because in these 2 years I've done a complete master's in education, and the whole thing has been online. Never met my lecturers, don't know what they look like, but I've actually gone through the program. I'm now doing my dissertation, and the focus is on the impact of COVID-19 on education continuity. But I had a random conversation with someone, and I was asking them, what was the purpose of closing schools? Because you can close the learning centers, yes, close them, send the kids at home, but do not stop the education.
Yes.
And I think what we've done as a country is we close schools and close learning as well. And you can't get those 2 years back, because listen, when a child goes to school, they spend a day being taught. So they're learning for 1 day. But in terms of the actual learning that happens in a day, it's more than what is taught in class. So what they've missed is a day of being taught, but 2 days of learning. Because you see, you learn when you interact with your friends, you learn at break time when you're running around, you learn that distance from my class to the canteen takes me 20 seconds, but if I run it takes me 5 seconds. All those are learning opportunities which are not happening in class, but actually happening in a school. So the 1 day that the child misses at school, they've missed a day of content, of teaching, but 2 days of learning. Put that in 2 years.
But Bob, you're making an assumption that experience is part of the learning.
You see, our education system, and you're right, because our education system is not modeled around learning, it's modeled around teaching.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, that look here,
Academic
it is possible
ability.
that I can come to class and teach, and the kids leave class and they've learned nothing. I will have taught the content, I will have taught the curriculum, the syllabus, finished it, but ask the kids, what have you learned? And it's sad that because our system is modeled that way, we also examine the kids not on what they've learned, but on what has been taught. Now you imagine the 2 years where they have not been taught. What haven't they learned? It's not 2 years they've missed, it's 4 years. Yes. Can you get those 4 years back? Never. You never get those 4 years back. So actually we've not even just paused, we've rewound. We've gone backwards. We've gone backwards because let me ask you, you have kids. Tell me about the writing skills of your kids in the 2 years that they've not been in school. Are they still at the same writing level? Are they still at the same reasoning level? Or they've retrogressed? And if they've done, the lockdown has not stagnated us, it's taken us back. Now we've got to go forward, reach the point where we were before the lockdown, and then try and make progress. It's a long journey.
I think it was indeed a long journey, like you said. No, the thing is, when lockdown came, and it's a catch-22 for me because, you have people dying, you're reading this on international media, you're head of state, and then you're worried. And I remember the president saying, I would rather have a child who goes to school when they're old rather than lose them. And so he was caught between, a rock and a hard place, and he had to make a decision. And first off was, I have to keep these people healthy.
Sure.
They're my responsibility. So 1 year comes in, and we go through that phase. Before you know it, there's a new variant that is even worse.
Yeah, true.
So you're rethinking of returning kids to school, and then that Delta virus comes in and literally kills people that we know. Forget about the first one. Perhaps it was just playing games.
It was warming up.
Yeah, when the Delta variant came in, we lost people we knew.
True.
So COVID-19 came home, and so the head of state is thinking again. At this time, while people are still studying how COVID is affecting young children, I mean, the first one you're telling us that it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect us grown-ups. But so the science is just coming in. It's coming in slowly with few studies, So in that, I'm just trying to be in the space of the president, and I'm thinking, what would I have done? But fast forward, during that lockdown, every parent was wondering, what do we do? And so some schools came up with the e-learning.
Yeah.
You know, I remember having to buy iPads for these kids, you know, and you know, and also having to buy bundles. My goodness! And then imagine you've also exposed them, you know. I mean,
It was massive.
massive. You have exposed them to internet. You've given them iPads, iPhones or computers and internet. So you've left the world to them. Remember, you're also hustling somewhere. You've gone to work or what. You don't know what happens after that. Even when you tell the maid after class, switch off the internet. Sometimes they'll be on the internet, and then you'll find them singing crazy songs. And you're like, how did you someone is rapping a whole line, or like, so how did you learn it? And we forget that we gave them the iPads, we gave them the internet, we gave them all that. But we were desperate as parents because we needed to see our kids learning. And so many schools came up with different inversions, and you know, we started doing e-learning and classes. And that came along with its own challenges. There's videos that went, you know, Mama is naked walking up behind trying to fix it. And yes, we're just on the whole learning thing. Like, there's the internet, TV, so we're caught in the middle of all that, and we have to find our footing. You know, I remember then, you know, my wife Vivian was saying, what do we do? You know, and part of the thing was like, can we look for the kids' teachers where they stay? Can we maybe find a way of taking them there to do special learning as they're also learning so we are just desperate and we didn't know what to do. But that just was for us the privileged. Think about the people in the rural areas. So government is trying to figure things out. We get radios. Mike, where did that money go for radios? Procuring radios for children in the rural areas to learn. You know, and there were conversations.
Did you see the sample of the radio?
So I mean, it was just chaotic, and you know, I remember, you know, the president saying we're going to print all this learning material and giving it out at village level, you know, to try to really close in the gap. It was just It was a desperate situation.
But you see, Solomon, I agree with you. I mean, what happened was what should have happened. But we know it from a comms perspective, that when crisis hits home, the first thing you do is you also set up structures around which to mitigate and make sure that as you're sorting out this, you're also making sure things, because there's no control that this is gone or this is done with. What Bob was challenging us with is something that we need to rethink about and say, how can education continue? That it doesn't have to be at school. And I think for me that's the key reflection. And that's what I'm saying, to say, did we miss an opportunity? Did we miss an opportunity? Yes, whatever decision was taken was the most appropriate decision
at the time.
At that time. The question is, I can't predict that in the next 2-3 years it won't happen again. But how do I create an environment that, or even processes, or even reflections that actually learning continues, not class, because we're talking about education, learning, not sitting in class and continuing. Yes, there's that need, and even the people that are in the rural communities. And at one time, it was a random thought. I was like, could we have done controlled schooling? So the kids in our community, where you have a primary school and a secondary school, it's controlled. Could we have modeled that? So for me, it was more of, yes, all these things are happening, but in the midst, you're also creating some scenarios. Like you're trying to model a few things, because that's, innovations happen in moments like this. Yes.
The human mind is that.
Yes, because the things that we never thought would happen. That our children will go before a computer or even an iPad.
In P2, P2, P3,
even preschool. You know, like in the sports field, in the sports area, right? what they did for some of the competitions, they created what they called a bubble, where all the people who are going to participate in a sports event came in this wonderful place. They tested everyone, and then they did their competition. And you see, if you took that model and modeled it around communities and say we will have a bubble, you see that the synergies in a community are interesting when there is a goal that they're working towards.
Exactly.
Because if you went to a community and said, look here, our school has closed, but you've got P7s here and you want them to do their exams, can we actually get all of them to this location and make sure that they are safe in this environment, the teachers are safe in this environment, and they can be taught, they can learn? I'll tell you, the community will rally around that.
Yeah.
But what Michael said is are there opportunities we miss in these 2 years? Yes, they are. But for me, the bigger question is, are there lessons that we've learned that we can carry forward? That if for any reason schools are forced to close, and it doesn't have to be a pandemic, and this is something I was writing in my dissertation, that if a child finds themselves unable to go to school for whatever reason, right now we're talking about the girl child who's pregnant and can't go to school. Although you're saying go to school, but that's the reason that a child can't go to school, because they're pregnant. There's stigma there. There are all these complications with carrying a child. Can they continue to learn when they're at home? That they don't miss those 9 months when they're not attending class, but they actually continue to learn. That they can actually do their exam at the end of the year. They can go to the next class. Those are the progressions we're talking about. We're not talking about a grand thing of, okay, now there's another pandemic and therefore schools have shut down. You could fail to go to school because the bridge that you cross has been washed away by water, by a storm, and that means that for 2 weeks you can't cross. Why shouldn't learning continue in a circumstance like that?
But my daughter, you'd ask her which class are you, and she'd say I'm in P6 year 2. And that was very funny. But so what government has done has responded to the challenges parents were struggling with. Where is this child going to be? And so by saying that you're going to the next class, it's a good thing. And because then you see progression. So people are not stuck in the same class. But also the reality is that because you have done P7 exams, you've done senior 4, you've done senior 6, so there must be continuity. There must be continuity. The advantage we've had is that this is starting, going back to school has started at the beginning of the year, the school year. So we are not going to have lapse of media then trying to reset. So to an extent, this has given us an opportunity to like recalibrate and be present. So they will do exams end of year. Like things are going to run
almost back to
we were back to normal. Unlike last year, I remember the calendar they had shared.
Something about
it was just
crazy.
I looked at it, I just got a headache. Like, what are we trying to do? And every time there was an extension, I was like, okay, so what is happening to this calendar?